All right, guys, it is Tuesday morning, October 28th, 2025, and I am on a rest day today. And as I mentioned last week, we are beginning the transition into this new micro training cycle. And as I mentioned last week, I talked about combining both the Westside Louis Simmons, Westside Conjugate Method training, powerlifting training method, and combining that with some old school Ronnie Coleman bodybuilding training splits. I spent the last couple days and kind of put a program together for this micro training cycle, and I'm really excited about it. And just in general, not for me, obviously I'm going to be running this program for a period of time, but not for me. If you are interested in following this along, I'm going to put up the workouts here in the video so you can take a look at them, maybe screenshot them. I think this is a pretty cool workout, a pretty cool program. In my eyes, this really emphasizes a traditional, again, my opinion, a traditional power building training split. We're essentially taking one of the best powerlifting coaches of all time, Louis Simmons, and we're combining his methods with probably the best bodybuilder of all time, Ronnie Coleman. And putting these two programs together is really going to be fun. And I had a lot of fun putting this program together, and I think you guys are going to find it pretty interesting. So, the program is broken down into 5 days. Now, again, when I go through this program today, this is not going to be like 100% exactly to the T of how I'm going to run this program, but this is a pretty good foundation, pretty basic look at it, because I'm going to obviously cycle days and rotate days based on how I feel. Again, I'm not going to run this sequenced. I'm not going to run this one through five, so to speak. I may run day 3 on a certain day, day 2 on another day. Again, it's going to kind of mix up, all depending on how I feel. But essentially, you're going to take a look at what each day or what the program is going to call for workout splits on the days that I'm going to mention here in the video. So let's start right out with day number 1. Again, I'm going to put it right up here in the video, so if you want to take a look at it, again, screenshot it, or just kind of follow along. I really think this is a cool program. I'm pretty excited about it. So let's start with day 1. We have a max effort bench day, and primarily the max effort work and the main movements that you're going to see in this program are coming from the Westside Conjugate Method. So this is Louis Simmons basically taking the main movements from my experience with Westside, what has worked for me in my powerlifting days, and I'm going to put the Westside portion of this in most of the main movements, and I'll explain a little bit about that. Now again, as I said, there will be switches, there will be minor variations that you may not see in here, but I'll explain that throughout my workouts and throughout the program and different things if I do make the changes that don't exactly tie in to what you see here. So let's start out. So max effort bench is going to be day 1. And the goal for the max effort bench, the main movement, as I said, coming from the Westside Conjugate Method, is I'm going to choose a main movement of some bench press variation. Let's just run through the list. There are probably some I forgot. I might have too many. Again, I just kind of ran through a list that I have had experience with, and it's a pretty good list. So on the first exercise of day 1, being a max effort bench day, we're going to choose one of the following movements for the first exercise. So you have your bench press, so it's going to be a straight up bench press. And the rep range you see is going to stay the same for all these variations, but every day 1 of each week, these variations are going to rotate. So 1 week, I'm going to do probably a bench press, straight up bench press right off of the bench, nothing special about it. And we're going to work, depending on how I feel, we're going to consider all this max effort work. We're going to work 1 to 5 reps on this first main movement. It might be a max effort, 1 rep day, working up to that heavy 1 rep max. It might be a heavy triple, or it might be a heavy 5 reps for all of these main movements. So we have bench press, we have board press, we have floor press, we have pin press, we have bench press with bands and chains, which we'll add to the mix as well. We also have reverse band bench and then a close grip bench. So those are the various variations that I will choose from in each week. So every day 1 of each week will be a rotation of one of these variations. I am not going to bench press or do the same variation back to back. I'm going to try to rotate these through pretty quickly. If I'm depending on how my day goes, let's just say floor press is what I'm going to do for that main movement. Maybe I didn't have the greatest day. Maybe I thought I could have done a little bit better on floor press. I might do floor press again the next week. Now, traditionally, the West Side method would say run these variations for at least a couple weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and then switch up the variation. I'm going to try to switch this up as many times as I can. So again, I want to try to get through all the variations in a shorter amount of time rather than running one variation for several weeks. Now again, that might depend. That all might depend on how I feel. I may run it for a week or 2, maybe 3 weeks. It all depends. But the main goal right now that I'm thinking about is to really run through all these exercises, rotate them through on all the day ones for each of the week. Now, the reason for that is I think it's going to be huge because this is going to be quite, the volume isn't crazy high, but the work capacity, the central nervous system with the max effort work that's in this program, for my recovery purposes, I want to keep things changing as much as possible. So again, that's my thought around that. Again, that might change, but that's the reason why I want to rotate these week to week rather than doing one variation for a couple weeks, then choosing another one. But we'll see how that works out. But there's the list of the first main movement of the max effort bench press. And then from there, we move right into more of the Ronnie Coleman. So we have our main movement being the West Side Conjugate Method type movements for a bench up for max effort bench day, or the main movement. Now we're moving into more of the Ronnie Coleman bodybuilder split. So on day one, after max effort bench work, after one of those main movements is done, I'm going to move into what I'm calling assistant or accessory work, which is going to be a Ronnie Coleman kind of bodybuilder split. And for the assistant and accessory work, we're looking at day one, following our main exercise with a chest and back workout. So the first exercise there, listed as exercise 2, is going to be incline bench press. So I'm going to go from the main movement right into an incline bench press. You see the rep range, the set and rep range there, 3 to 4 sets, 8 to 12 reps. From there, a dumbbell flat bench. From there, a incline dumbbell bench. And then right into back. Now again, as I said, I'm not going to follow this exactly. There might be some changes in there. I might want to throw some heavy flies in there. I might definitely want to hit the pec deck. There might be certain things that I might want to add, and that'll all depend on how I feel. If I feel I need a little more stretch or a little more not so central nervous system taxing exercise, like a heavy dumbbell bench, maybe it is time for me to go on the reverse or the pec deck and hit some work there. So again, those will change slightly, but again, this is the foundation, kind of the basic to that. From there, after the chest work is done, we're going to move into some back work. We have dumbbell row variations. Dumbbell row variations will be neon bench rows, standing dumbbell rows, croc rows, chest supported dumbbell rows. Again, I'll choose a variation of dumbbell rows for that exercise. Right into barbell rows, definitely going to hit barbell rows. And then from there, some kind of cable pull down variation, whether that's a wide grip, a reverse grip, a close grip, narrow grip, we'll figure that out, but it'll be some kind of cable pull down variation. So there is day one with the combination of the West Side Conjugate Method for the main movement, and then of the more traditional Ronnie Coleman bodybuilding split for, let's call it the assistant or the accessory work. Now again, if you were looking at the basic West Side Conjugate Method, you would move into, from your main movement on a max effort bench day, you'd move into some sort of tricep, heavy tricep movement or any kind of tricep extension movement. You'd move into what the West Side calls as any kind of shoulder movement. Shoulder movements are anything from military presses to dumbbell pressing to all kinds of different variations of that. Then you move into some kind of back movement and whatnot. So again, I'm kind of really adding to that with more of the bodybuilding side, and I think that's what really makes this that power building, that power building basic is really kind of adding that bodybuilding split rather than the rotation of body parts like the West Side Conjugate Method usually does. So there is day number one. So let's move into day number 2. So day number 2, we're going to have a max effort squat day. So again, the main movement coming from the West Side conjugate method from Louis Simmons, and the max effort squat variation movements that we have to choose from are your box squat, free squat, pin squats, Zerchers off pins, good mornings, reverse band squat, and then of course any of the squat variations I just mentioned and adding bands and chains to those variations. So again, that's going to be the main movement for day number 2. It'll be a max effort squat day. And again, those exercises will rotate week to week. Those variations will rotate from week to week. And really looking forward to this. I definitely want to work on my squat and get a little bit stronger there. And then for the assistant and accessory work, we have, this is definitely a little bit different than your traditional West Side. West Side, if you're familiar with West Side, and please, I'm not a guru or an expert with West Side, but their deadlifting is not so often, so to speak. I don't like to not deadlift every week. I like to have a deadlift variation in there every week. So what I've done, even in my powerlifting days when I was competing and running the West Side conjugate method, is I've always incorporated a speed or dynamic deadlift variation following my heavy squat days. So again, what you'll see here on the workout is from my max effort squat work, from one of those variations, I'm moving into an assistant accessory work with the first exercise of that work always going to be some form of dynamic / speed deadlift variation, okay? And you see the sets and rep range that we have. So we're going to work from anywhere from each week, anywhere from 8 to 12 sets. Rep range will be from 1 to 3. And we're going to base this off of anywhere between 45 to 65% of our 1 rep max of the deadlift that we get during our deadlift day. And you'll see the percentages broke down in some of the templates here. I don't think I have them in all of them. But again, for all the dynamic work, whether that's, we're going to go into it, whether it's bench, deadlift, or squat, for all the dynamic work, it's going to be 45 to 65% of my 1 to 5 rep max, we'll call it, on my main movements from my squat, deadlift, and bench days. So I'll take 45 to 65% of that weight and do that for my dynamic speed work for those movements, okay? And also with the dynamic movement, and I'll talk a little bit about this more when we hit it again, but the dynamic and speed work movement is literally as quick as possible. So you're doing those 8 to 12 sets, less than a minute rest in between sets. So you're flying through those. That's very, very, very important for that. So following the max effort squat movement, we're going to move into a speed deadlift variation. Now that could be off the floor, could be off of a rack, it could be, it could be sumo, it could be conventional, could be many different variations in that. But again, it'll represent a speed and dynamic deadlift variation for that movement. From there, we're going to go into an RDL variation. Now that might be a barbell RDL, dumbbell RDL. That might be RDLs with chains and bands. You've seen, if you're following along, some of the variations I have when it comes to RDLs. So that'll be the second part of the accessory work. The fourth movement, or the third movement of the assistant accessory work, is we're going to go into a lunge variation. Now this will be barbell lunges, dumbbell lunges, walking lunges, some kind of step up variation. Again, I'll rotate variations in this lunge portion of the workout. And then we're going to finish every lower / we'll call it leg day with leg curls and leg extensions. All right. So from day 2, we're moving into day 3. And on day 3, I have this listed as a dynamic bench day. So this is going to be, again, that speed work. So again, I'm going to take 45 to 65%, anywhere in between. And typically you would pyramid up. So again, say, 1 week you do 45% on your dynamic work. The next week you're going to up that to up by 5%. So the next week will be 50%. Next week will be 55%. Next week will be 60%. Excuse me. So on, my throat's dry. So on and so forth. So on this dynamic bench day, the main movements we're choosing from are bench press with bands and chains. That's going to be huge when we start adding the chains and bands. Now again, the emphasis there is to have your bar weight set at that 45 up to 65. Probably not in the 65% range, but more or less in the 45 to 55% range when we start adding the bands and chains. So we want to make that roughly, again, we want to make that roughly 40% of the bar weight when it's on your chest. So essentially you're taking 45%, you're going to have that bar weight on your chest at 45%. And then with the bands and chains, you gauge a percent at the top of the lift. So the bands and chains might add additional 15 to 20% at the top of the lift. So yes, you're working with 45% bar weight, and that's roughly gauged when it hits your chest. Of course, the chains and bands will add a little more weight, but you're really gauging the percentage as you push up, as you really explode out of that lift. The bands and chains are obviously adding to the weight on the bar percentage-wise at the top of the lift. So again, that gets a little confusing, but that's essentially what the goal will be when we start adding the bands and chains. But there'll be many lifts, many variations done at the 45 to 65% range without the bands and chains. I also have on there floor press, board press, and of course close grip bench for all my dynamic work. You can see the sets and the rep range for that. Again, no more than a minute rest in between those sets. For the assistant and accessory work, we're going to do, again, we're going to break down into the Ronnie Coleman bodybuilding world for the accessory and assistant work. And we have this day broken down with triceps and shoulders. So the first exercise for that is we're going to do a overhead dumbbell extension. So we're going to come right off of some form of dynamic bench variation, and we're going to move into some form of overhead dumbbell extension. Now, that could be one arm, that could be two arms. It's going to be some form of dumbbell overhead extension. Again, this is one of Ronnie Coleman's staple moves when it comes to triceps. From there, we're going to move into a skull crusher. Then a cable pushdown variation. This might be V-bar, this might be D-handle, this might be rope. Again, these exercises will rotate from week to week. From there, we're going to move into shoulders. This day is going to be interesting. I'm definitely going to gauge myself on how I feel, just because adding the shoulders to the mix is a big muscle group and a very important one for this training cycle. But nonetheless, we're going to give it a shot. And we're going to start our shoulder work with either a dumbbell or a barbell military press seated. We're going to move into a side lateral raise, and then we're going to do a dumbbell front raise. So that'll wrap up day number 3. I really, really like the speed days. I love doing speed bench. I love speed deadlift, speed squat. I love dynamic days. So important if you're looking to build strength and power that you incorporate dynamic and speed work into your workouts. And again, if you want to take a look at this and follow along with this, this is definitely a great one for that. All right, so after day 3, we have day 4, and this is our max effort deadlift day. Again, same concept, west side conjugate method for the main movement, and then broken down into more of a bodybuilding split, so to speak, at the assistant accessory work. But for the main movements on a max effort deadlift day, we're looking at choosing the one of the following of deadlift. So again, straight up deadlift off the floor, working up to a 1 to 5 rep max. We're looking at rack pull variations. We're looking at deficit deadlift. We're looking at reverse band deadlift, which I love to do. And then, of course, adding bands and chains to all these variations for the max effort work. So I love deadlift days. I love the changes and variations, and I love adding bands and chains to those variations. From there, the assistant and accessory work is going to look like speed squat and dynamic squat. So again, as I mentioned before, this is a little bit different than the traditional west side conjugate method. So on my deadlift, my max effort deadlift days, my next exercise is always going to be a speed squat variation. And on my max effort squat days, my next exercise is always going to be a speed deadlift variation. So we have just that. We have for the next exercise a dynamic squat variation. Again, you see the set range there, 8 to 12 sets, 1 to 3 reps. Those sets and reps will change each week. Again, 1 week might be 8 sets of triples. The next week might be 10 sets of doubles. Again, it'll change every single week along with the variation, whether that's adding bands and chains or just adding the height of the box or free squat, what have you. So those will all change and rotate through. From there, we're going to go into a good morning exercise. I see if you notice here, I replaced the RDL portion of the max effort squat day that you saw, and I replaced that with a good morning variation. Good mornings are so important both for accessory and assistant work, but also for a main movement, whether that's a main movement. I don't have it listed here for deadlift, but I definitely have good mornings listed as a main movement on our max effort squat days. Good mornings are huge. If you don't do them, yes, they can wreak havoc on if you're having any back problems, but they are essential to building deadlift and squat strength. I love good mornings. So we put in good mornings. There's several different variations I like to work with when it comes to good mornings. And then, of course, we finish up the workout again with some leg curls and leg extensions, okay? And then the last day of this program, day number 5, is an interesting one. Took me a little bit of time to kind of put this one together. But day number 5 is going to be delts, biceps, and traps. So again, I threw the delts in there because I like to do delts separately, especially when I'm using heavier weight in a training program. Training my delts separately or on their own day are just so beneficial for my recovery, for shoulder health. So again, we're going to do some delt work on day 5. So we have reverse pec deck, we have face pulls, and we have dumbbell side raises. Of course, there's many other different variations I may throw in there, scarecrows, just a whole bunch of different, delt work that I might want to throw in there. But again, delts will be done on day 5 as their own kind of little workout. From there, we're going to hit biceps. I definitely wanted to keep biceps in there. Again, going right back to the Ronnie Coleman bodybuilding training split, and literally took the bicep workout that Ronnie Coleman used and added it to my bicep workout for day number 5. We have barbell curls, seated dumbbell curls. I didn't put dumbbell in there, but those are seated dumbbell curls, preacher curls, and then I like to do hammer curls. So I'm looking forward to biceps on day 5, and then we're going to finish the workout with the trap work that you see there just to keep the traps in the mix. So that is a breakdown of this new micro training cycle that we're going into. I am so excited for it, and I think this is a pretty cool program. And as I said, my opinion, we're taking two legends of the sport and combining them together to make, I think, the ultimate power building training split. And I am so excited to get this thing rolling. So as of tomorrow, we will be on day 1 of this training, this micro training cycle, which is going to be a bench day for me. And so I'm getting rested up and recovered for that. And I'm really excited to run through this. And with that, guys, I'm not going to keep you forever. I apologize if I was talking a little fast. I know my throat is definitely a little dry from all the talking. But if you have any questions or comments, we'll definitely spend some time throughout this micro training cycle. I'm sure I'll have some dialogue with you guys. But this is a really awesome workout. So if you want to follow along, definitely give it a shot. And we'll definitely have some feedback and questions and comments and stuff to go over throughout this. And I'm really excited to kind of see how things feel over the next couple weeks. So with that, guys, we're going to wrap this up, and we'll see you for the next workout.